This is Echoes of the Silk Road, where dreams speak, legends breathe, and every tale invites you to wander. I've had dreams before, vivid ones, the kind that linger in your chest like smoke after a fire. But this one was different. It didn't feel like a dream. It felt like I crossed over. I don't remember falling asleep. One second I was here, just me in the quiet. In the next, I was walking through a jungle that hummed like it was alive. The air was thick. The sky was dim, like twilight was stuck on loop. No sun, no stars, just shadows that moved when I didn't. And in front of me, it walked. Not a man, not a beast, a Yautja, a predator. But I wasn't scared. That's the strange part. I wasn't prey. I wasn't being hunted. I was following him. No, walking beside him. There was no conversation, just understanding, an unspoken bond, like we'd done this before, like I belonged there. He carried himself like a king, silent, armored, ruthless. But he didn't move without purpose. Every step was part of something bigger. We weren't hunting animals. We were hunting something else. Something dishonorable. Now listen, there's a kind of clarity you get in dreams like this. Not everything makes sense, but everything feels true. I knew there was another predator, but not like him. Not bound by the same code. This one didn't follow rules. It fed on chaos. A bad blood. And it was waiting for us. Somewhere deep in that jungle of rust and bone and memory. Watching. Planning. I should have been terrified, but I wasn't. Not yet. Because the story hadn't twisted yet. Not until he showed up. The man in the long coat. The hat tilted low. The face painted like a grin that forgot how to laugh. At first, I thought I was dreaming inside the dream. Because there was no way this man was supposed to be here. Jim Carrey. But not Jim Carrey. Not really. He was playing someone. The Joker. Only it wasn't campy. It was serious. Dangerous. There was still humor, but buried under it was something sharp. Something wrong. And on his back, he wore a massive ticking pocket watch, bigger than his torso. It leaked smoke. Tick, tick, tick. Like it was counting down to something, like a joke with no punchline. He didn't speak at first. He just looked at me, with those wide, wild eyes and smiled like he already knew how this would end. The predator beside me didn't flinch when he appeared. That's when I realized he was meant to be there. A part of the hunt. Maybe the key to finishing it. The bad blood was still out there. But now things were changing. Now I wasn't sure who the real threat was. Or what side I was even on. You ever have a dream where you feel like you're not supposed to remember it? Like something or someone is trying to pull it away from you the moment you wake? That's what this was. But I held on. Because I need to understand what happened out there. And why a ticking joke and a dead man's grin was what finally ended the bloodline. I don't remember how I got there. There was no portal, no flash of light, just silence. And then the jungle. It wasn't the kind you see in documentaries. lush and green and teeming with life. No, this one was older, like it remembered war. The trees were twisted, bark scorched in places. The leaves were dark, almost black. The air was warm, but it didn't feel alive. It felt like breath held too long. And the only sound was him, the Yautja. 7 feet of muscle and metal and myth. He moved like silence was an extension of him. No wasted motion, no hesitation, just purpose. And I followed. I didn't question it, didn't speak. I knew I belonged there. The ground trembled slightly with each of his steps. Not violently, just enough to remind the earth who was walking on it. He held a spear in one hand, some kind of retractable tech in the other, but he wasn't looking for a fight. Not yet. He was tracking, and I was his shadow. We moved through the ruins, stone temples overtaken by roots, long abandoned altars cracked under time's weight. Carvings lined the walls, symbols I couldn't read, but somehow felt. I could tell this wasn't his first time here. He moved like someone retracing steps, like a king returning to a broken throne. That's when I realized he wasn't just hunting. He was reclaiming something, and he brought me along to witness it, or maybe to judge him for it. Hours passed, maybe days. Time worked differently there. No sun, no moon, just a sky stuck in eternal dusk. And yet, we never tired. I watched him scan the ground, touch stone with reverence, pause at certain trees like they once meant something, like this jungle was a graveyard and a memory at the same time. And then, it changed. We found the first marking, a tree split at the trunk, blackened, burned from the inside out. No natural fire could have done it. He stopped, crouched down, and ran his fingers through the ash. The hum of his tech pulsed once. Low, red, alert. The bad blood had been here. I stepped closer, and for the first time I felt his gaze turn toward me. Not just his mask, his attention. We didn't speak. Couldn't, but something passed between us. An understanding. This is where it began. This is where the code was broken. We pressed deeper into the jungle. Now the hunt was real. The air grew colder, the trees more twisted, the path narrowed, and the light dimmed until we were walking through a corridor of rot and silence. Then came the bones. At first, small ones. Birds, maybe monkeys. But as we moved forward, they changed. Human, predator, something else. Hung like trophies, arranged with malicious pride. That's when I understood. This wasn't just murder. It was mockery. The bad blood wasn't hiding. It wanted us to see this. It wanted to be found. We stopped at a clearing. It was circular, perfectly so, unnaturally shaped. The grass was dead. The trees bent outward like something had exploded in the center but left no crater. He crouched again, took out a small device, clicked it once. A blue hologram flickered to life, grainy but clear enough. It showed him the bad blood. Armor darker, mask twisted, and beside him, bodies. Piled, burned, marked with his own emblem. a skull with a cracked crown. This wasn't just a rogue predator. This was a statement, a challenge, a war on the old ways. The Yautja beside me stood slowly, no hesitation, no anger, just steel focus. He turned to me finally, reached out and touched my shoulder, and in that moment, I saw it all. Flashes, fights, the ritual of the hunt, honor, discipline, respect. The old code. He was showing me who he was, what he stood for, and what he was about to end. Then came the sound, low at first, like a growl caught in metal lungs, then higher, laughter, distorted. We spun, instinctually, weapons drawn, but it wasn't the bad blood. It was a man, stepping out of the mist, like he'd been waiting for his cue. Tall, slender, wearing a coat that dragged across the dirt like it didn't care how filthy it got. Face painted in a grin so wide it hurt to look at. And on his back, a pocket watch. Bigger than it should have been. Leaking smoke. Tick, tick, tick. He didn't speak. Not yet. Just looked at us both. Smiled and winked. The Yautja didn't attack. Neither did I. Because somehow, we knew this wasn't a fight we could start. He was the beginning of the next act. Not us. The jungle went quiet, like the trees were holding their breath. The hunt had shifted. The predator was no longer in charge, and time had just entered the game. The man with the painted grin didn't move, didn't speak, just let that watch on his back tick like a countdown no one asked for. My Yautja ally angled his mask toward him, shoulder cannon humming. A warning, not a shot. The Joker tilted his head like he was listening to music only he could hear. Then, finally he spoke. "Don't mind me," he said softly, voice playful but hollow. "I'm only here for the punchline." No one laughed. He gestured past us with a lazy swing of his hand. "Your problem's that way." We didn't trust him. Of course we didn't, but the jungle did. The clearing seemed to stretch in the direction he pointed, like the path wanted us to go. The Yautja looked at me once, then moved. I followed. Behind us, the ticking grew louder, closer, or maybe it was in my head. We emerged into a valley carved into the jungle like a wound. The ground was charred, the trees bent outward, and in the center a structure jutted from the earth. Metal, spiked, ugly. A hunting shrine, perverted, built from bones and armor. Yautja skulls embedded into the frame like trophies, each scarred with deep, deliberate cuts. A message, a code rewritten in blood. The Yautja beside me stiffened, not fear, fury chained so tight it sounded like silence. He stepped forward, placed a hand on one of the skulls and bowed his head. Ritual, respect, something the bad blood had abandoned. The sky dimmed further, like a lid closing. The temperature dropped. The jungle held its breath again. Then I felt it. The vibration beneath my feet, slow, heavy, approaching. From the far side of the shrine, the bad blood stepped into view. Bigger, armor darker, mask reshaped, jagged, painted with the same cracked crown emblem we'd seen before. His movements were wrong, too loose, too proud, no respect, no caution, no code. He wanted us to see him. He wanted us to watch. My partner straightened to full height, his shoulder cannon fixed, humming with lethal patience. The bad blood tilted his head in mockery, then raised both hands, palms open, a mockery of greeting. Then he pressed a glyph on his wrist gauntlet. The ground erupted. Minds, cloaked, hidden, patient, flared to life, not to kill, but to scatter. Shrapnel screamed through the air. The shockwave threw me back into a half-collapsed pillar. The Yautja rolled, shield tech flaring for a split second, then cut as he stood, saving energy for the real fight. The bad blood laughed, not like a Yautja, like a human imitating one. Insult. He launched first, faster than I'd expected, spear snapping forward with a jagged hum. My Yautja caught it with his forearm bracer, sparks exploding off the impact. He twisted, brought a wrist blade up, only for the bad blood to catch it with his bare hand. Blood hissed on hot metal, and he didn't flinch. He leaned in, inches from the mask, and pressed his forehead to my allies. The most intimate form of contempt. Then he slammed his head forward. Metal cracked. My Yautja staggered back. This wasn't a test. This was execution. I moved without thinking, grabbing a broken length of spear from the ground. Heat still coiled in the metal. It felt wrong in my hand, but I didn't care. I launched forward, aiming for a tendon, a joint, something. He didn't even look at me. His tail blade, an ugly modification, not standard, snapped out and caught me across the ribs. I felt armor that wasn't mine tear. Breath ripped from my chest. I hit the dirt hard, air gone, vision swimming. He could have finished me. He didn't. He turned his head slowly, deliberately, just to let me know I didn't matter yet. I saw something then, in the curve of his armor, in the paint, in the way his mask flexed at the jaw. This wasn't just power drunk. It was self-creation. He'd cut and rebuilt pieces of himself, augmented, desecrated. No code, no constraint, just more. My Yautja roared, a real sound, pure, ancient, furious. They collided again. Blades flashed, tech screamed, plasma carved lines into dead earth. The air filled with burning ozone and the smell of blood that felt older than either of them. And through all of it, the bad blood was smiling with his body, taunting mid-strike, offering openings that were traps, turning honor into a weapon. My ally adjusted, shifted tactics. He started to use the terrain, vaulting off broken pillars, forcing the bad blood to follow. It worked, until the bad blood triggered another trap. This time, a net, superheated, razor-edged, designed to constrict and slice. It snapped over my ally, digging into armor, sizzling flesh beneath. The bad blood stepped in close, raised his blade, and paused. Then he looked at me. I understood the message. He wanted me to watch him take everything from the one who still honored the hunt. He pressed the blade slowly downward, savoring it. And that's when the tick hit a different frequency. Boom. Not an explosion. A silence that blew through the valley with the force of one. The bad blood spun, my Yautja twisted, and out of the smoke, out of the haze, stepping down the shrine like he'd been waiting for the director to shout, "Action!" came the Joker.
Terrible form, he said, mildly disappointed. All that theatrics, but no timing.
The watch on his back was shrieking now, ticking so fast that it stopped being ticks and became a whining thread of noise that pulled at the edge of thought. The bad blood moved to strike him. An easy kill. Joker raised a finger. He tapped the watch. It spoke, not in words, in sequence. The air fractured, not visibly, not physically, but in sense. Like the moment right before you remember a dream, everything bending, reality creasing like paper. The bad blood froze, just for a second. But that's all it took. My Yautja ripped the net apart with a roar, the strips burning as they tore. He lunged. The bad blood snapped free of whatever the Joker had done and brought his blade up. They crashed again. Plasma against plasma, metal against will. The Joker walked past me, hands in his pockets, not even looking at the violence he'd casually recalibrated. Smoke from the watch curled in front of my face. It smelled like burned film reels, forgotten scenes.
You're stubborn,
he said to me without turning.
Who are you to this?
I asked, throat raw. He grinned.
The editor.
Of what? He winked.
Continuity.
He was lying, or telling the truth in a way designed to make me mistrust it. Either way, we didn't have time. The fight surged, and for a brief razor-balanced moment, the honor-bound predator started to win. Clean strikes, efficient cuts, no waste. He stopped chasing and started ending. Pressed the bad blood back toward the shrine, toward the skulls, toward the history he'd spat on. The bad blood faltered. Mask cracked. Blood hissed. He looked smaller for a second. Mortal. Then he did the one thing he hadn't done yet. He laughed like a human again, and detonated his shoulder cannon at point-blank range. The blast hit like a meteor. It tore apart the shrine, sent skulls flying, bones shattering, sacred fragments grinding into dirt. I was thrown again, ears ringing, vision white. When it cleared, I saw him, my Yautja, down. Armor blackened, mask cracked, wrist blade shattered. He tried to push himself up once, faltered, and stayed on his knees. The bad blood loomed, triumphant, blade raised. The Joker sighed.
Every time,
he said, bored now.
No patience for an ending.
The bad blood glanced his way just for a fraction. That's all it took. My Yautja launched with what was left of his strength, slammed one broken blade deep into the bad blood's side. The bad blood shrieked, not in pain, in rage at losing control of the narrative. He backhanded my ally with enough force to dent stone. Then he tore the blade out of himself and threw it aside. Too late. The Joker was already behind him. Tick, tick, tick. Click. The watch stopped. Silence. The bad blood turned slowly, like he was afraid of the punchline he'd never considered would involve him. The Joker leaned close to his cracked mask and whispered something I couldn't hear. The bad blood froze. I don't mean he stood still. I mean time left him. Color drained. Sound fell off him like water from oil. His body didn't collapse. It paused, out of reality. The Joker gently tapped his mask. The bad blood fell in pieces. Not cut, not melted. Just separated. Like someone had found the edit points inside him and pulled. He hit the ground without a sound. The jungle exhaled. I crawled to my feet, ribs screaming, vision pulsing. My Yautja tried to rise too. The Joker walked over and crouched in front of him, studying him the way a director looks at an actor after a brutal scene.
Still breathing,
he said.
Good. The code survives when it's witnessed.
He looked at me.
That's your job. Witness. Remember. Tell it right.
What did you do to him? I asked, staring at the remains of the bad blood. The Joker shrugged.
Truth is a blade sharper than theirs.
He tapped the watch.
Times, the handle.
He stood, dusted off nothing, and turned away. The smoke from the watch trailed across the valley like a curtain lowering.
Act 3, then,
he called over his shoulder.
Let's see if you learn.
The watch began ticking again. Slow, measured, like a breathing heart. The Joker walked into the fog and vanished. I stood there, chest heaving, the battlefield still humming with the echo of a fight that wasn't fully over. Because even defeated, the bad blood left something here. A stain. A memory. A warning. I turned to my Yautja. He was on one knee, head bowed, one hand pressed to the ground like he was apologizing to it for falling. I moved to lift him. He stopped me with a gesture, then took my forearm, gripping it like a warrior would another warrior. Not human, not Yautja. Something between. There was no triumph in his posture, no thrill of victory, just obligation, duty fulfilled, for now. Because the hunt didn't end here. It shifted. The Joker hadn't saved us. He'd shifted the scene. And now, we were following him. Not because we trusted him, but because he had the clock. And whatever was coming next was going to be written in its ticks. We walked in silence. The jungle behind us had gone still. Not just quiet, empty. No birds, no bugs, no wind. Time had left it. Or maybe the Joker had taken it with him. He didn't walk like someone with a plan. He strolled, swaggered, boat dragging behind him, through the dead leaves and scorched ground like a lazy king who knew the crown was rigged to explode anyway. My Yautja ally limped beside me, wounded but alive. That was enough. He kept his gaze on the Joker, but I could tell he didn't understand him either. This wasn't a predator. This was something else. And yet, we followed, because we didn't have a choice. Eventually, we came to a clearing, circular, too perfect. At the center, a rusted playground, swings, a merry-go-round, a seesaw, burnt, bent, frozen in place like a ghost town mid-laugh. And beside the jungle's rot and ruin, it looked wrong, like a memory bleeding into the wrong dream. The Joker hopped onto the merry-go-round with a grin and let it spin slowly as he spoke.
Let's have a talk, shall we?
He said.
About jokes.
He gestured at the scorched slide behind him.
People think jokes are for laughs. Wrong. The best ones, they're mirrors. You laugh because you see a truth you didn't want to face.
He stopped spinning.
So, let me show you the punchline behind your hunter.
I blinked, and the world shifted. Not a transition, a snap cut. We were no longer in the clearing. We were in a chamber. Metal walls,
Predator glyphs glowing, faint blue. A memory. A vision. His. The Joker wasn't there, but I could hear his voice. You see that honor-bound Yautja you admire? He wasn't always like this. I turned. My Yautja stood younger, unscarred, unshaped. Across from him a circle of elders, their masks older, etched with codes. A ritual. The young predator stepped forward, offered his blade, and refused something. They turned their backs on him. One dropped a symbol, an emblem of exile. You think he's noble, the Joker whispered. But he was cast out for refusing to join the blood sport. He didn't earn his honor. He made it alone. The chamber fell away. We were back in the jungle. Only this time it was rotting fast, trees bending inward, ground swallowing itself. And the Joker was there again, now sitting on a swing that creaked but never moved. He looked at me directly. You relate to him, don't you? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Refused the code, walked alone, made your own rules 'cause theirs didn't fit. He leaned forward. But what happens when you follow someone like that too long? I glanced at my ally, wounded, silent, still watching. The Joker stood. You stop hunting for purpose, and you start hunting just to feel real. He tapped the watch. Tick. Everything slowed. I turned and the jungle around me blurred, twisted, became my street. My own world, familiar but empty, and I was walking on it alone. Just like I did when the noise of people got too loud and too fake. I turned again. My shadow stretched too long behind me, and beside it was the Joker's. He stood shoulder to shoulder with me now. You think the bad blood was the only one who lost himself, he said to me. You all did. I woke. No. Snapped back. To the clearing. My Yautja was watching me, mask tilted slightly. Maybe he saw what I saw. Maybe not. The Joker paced the edge of the clearing now, trailing smoke behind him. You followed a hunter, then a killer. Now you're following me. You ever ask why? I didn't respond. He walked up to me and leaned close. Because you don't know what you are yet. His breath smelled like ash and old reels, like something burned away before its time. He tapped the side of my head gently. Still filming. Then he stepped back and pulled the watch off his back, held it in front of us both. No more ticking, just silence. The face of the watch had changed. No hands, no numbers, just a reflection. Mine. He held it up to my Yautja. Same. You both want answers, he said, voice low. Then finish the story. He dropped the watch. It shattered without sound. And we were gone. Not disappeared. Moved. The clearing was gone. The jungle gone. Even the Joker, gone. Now we stood on a bridge of ash over a pit of glass. Everything beneath us reflected our faces over and over and over, warping slightly 1,000 versions. And across the bridge, the bad blood stood again. Not dead, not whole, rewritten. Eyes blank, armor cracked but alive. My Yautja didn't wait. He moved. So did I. And this time, the hunt was ours. The bridge crackled beneath our feet. Not stone, not metal. It was ash, held together by memory, thin and treacherous. Every step forward left a footprint that smoldered, then vanished. Beneath us, a pit of shifting glass reflected every version of me and my Yautja ally, twisting, warping, distorting, like the universe was trying to remind us who we'd been and how easily we could become something else. Across that bridge stood him, the bad blood. But he was different now, no longer defiant, no longer arrogant. He was unraveled, as if whatever the Joker had whispered into his mind cracked more than just his resolve. His body stood scarred, twisted, but his soul, it was like watching a god forget its name. He raised his weapon, not out of dominance, out of reflex. My Yautja moved first. No growl, no roar, just focus. This wasn't vengeance, it was completion. They clashed at the center of the bridge, blades sparking, plasma flaring, movement stripped of ceremony. No tricks, no traps, just truth. The bad blood fought like a broken mirror, fast, unpredictable, wild. His strikes were born from chaos, not precision. Every attack screamed fear under the mask of fury. My Yautja blocked, dodged, countered, disciplined, measured. He was no longer just a hunter. He was the standard. And I circled, watched, waited, until I saw it. The hesitation. The bad blood faltered for half a breath, a flicker of doubt behind the mask. That's when I moved. I struck low, driving a broken spike of obsidian I'd taken from the jungle into his leg. He buckled. My Yautja didn't hesitate. He drove his blade deep into the bad blood's chest, through armor, through defiance, into the core. The bad blood gasped, not in pain, in confusion, as if, even now, he didn't understand how he'd lost. His mask cracked, fell away. Underneath, his face wasn't monstrous. It was young, worn, but not evil, just lost. And in that final moment, he looked not at my Yautja. He looked at me, like he saw something there, or maybe recognized something. He reached toward me, slowly, but the bridge beneath him gave way, and he fell, down into the pit of mirrors. No scream, just silence. The bridge cracked beneath our feet. The fight was over, but the ground didn't care. It crumbled anyway. I leapt. My Yautja grabbed my arm midair, dragging me to solid ground just as the bridge collapsed behind us in a slow, final exhale. We landed hard, rolled, lay still. Above us the sky broke open, not with light, with film grain. The sky turned black and white, the stars flickering like old projector burns. The world around us peeled away like a movie set being struck. The trees vanished. The pit folded in on itself. And then,
The Joker returned, standing at the edge of the unraveling, coat still dirty, watch still shattered, but grinning.
You did it,
He said, mock applause in his voice.
The righteous blade strikes again. Order restored. Lesson learned.
I stood. My Yautja stayed crouched. Blade low but not drawn, the Joker looked at me.
Tell me, Hunter's shadow, did it make you feel better? Winning?
I didn't answer.
Thought not,
He whispered.
because truth is.
He pointed to where the bad blood fell.
That was never the enemy.
He tapped his temple.
This is.
Then he turned and began walking, away into the black and white static. No dramatic exit, no final monologue, just gone. My Yautja stepped forward, hand on my shoulder. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. We had hunted. We had seen the mirror. We had chosen not to become what we chased. The jungle didn't return. The world didn't fade back in. Only the sound of my own breath and the faint, haunting tick of a watch that was no longer there. I woke up before the end. No alarm, no sound, just breath and stillness. My room was dark. The air felt colder than usual. Not spooky, just hollow, like something important had left. I sat there, eyes wide open, not fully here, not fully gone. The dream was fading, but it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like I had been shown something. A hunt, a war, a downfall, and a reflection. And that ticking, even now in the silence, I swore I could still hear it. Slow, measured, like a reminder. I closed my eyes and tried to hold on to everything. The Yautja, the bad blood, the Joker, the bridge, the mirrors. But the image that stuck, the one I couldn't shake, was that final look. The bad blood reaching for me, not in hate, but in recognition, as if he'd seen his own ghost in me. Now I sit with this question gnawing at me. What was I in that dream? Not just a witness, not a hero, something in between. And maybe that's the point. Because the joke wasn't a gag. It wasn't chaos for the sake of it. The joke was this. You spend your life chasing truth, but the punchline is always you. With this being my dream, I will give myself the psychological interpretation as well as the spiritual interpretations. First, I'll begin with the psychological and or the physical meaning. This dream mirrors your inner journey with power, identity, and self-control. The Yautja ally is your ideal self, honor-bound, strategic, focused, the person you're building. The bad blood is your unregulated shadow self, potential rage, obsession, ego, or the version of you that could exist if you let ambition or pain consume you unchecked. The Joker is your inner trickster, the chaotic, hyper-aware part of you that doesn't follow rules but reveals deep truths through absurdity, sarcasm, or disruption. The ticking watch is the constant pressure of time, expectation, performance, your fear of running out of time to become what you're meant to be, or being seen before you're ready. You weren't the hunter.
You weren't the prey. You were the bridge between who you are and what you could become. This is something that I do personally feel in my life, so I know that this pertains to me on a real level. And now I'll get into my own spiritual interpretation and or the metaphysical meaning, because everything is deeper than the physical. This was a vision, a trial of the soul. You were called into alignment with the warrior spirit, the ancestral archetype of the hunter. The bad blood represents ancestral or spiritual interference, karma, temptation, or an energetic echo of past mistakes, repeating in your bloodline or timeline. The Joker is a divine disruptor, possibly a guide in disguise, teaching you to question what is real and what is yours and what must be released. The watch is not just about time. It's karmic. It's karmic alignment. The ticking was a spiritual countdown, not to destruction, but to clarity. You were tested, not in battle, but in discernment. You saw what lies beyond honor, what happens when truth is corrupted, and you chose not to inherit that cycle. You didn't win because you fought. You won because you understood. And now that you've seen it, you can never unsee it. It's time to walk your path with clarity. The clock's still ticking, but now you know where it leads.
This has been Echoes of the Silk Road. If these tales spoke to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every ending is another beginning. Until we meet again.